Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. Through Troubled Waters is the biography of Pam Turner, who suffered bullying, harassment, and other forms of verbal abuse most of her life. It takes the reader from her early years through her days in the workforce until a crippling condition sidelined her. The book is written along with Pastor Ken Hinkley. He's currently the pastor of 2 rural churches in western Maine. He's had a lifelong interest in writing. Pam's story is one he feels needs to be told to help curb the epidemic of bullying and verbal abuse. Pastor Ken, in 2003, published a book of poetry that tells a story called The Journey of a Heart. It's available at Amazon, other shopping websites, and the book we're talking about today, Through Troubled Waters, also available at Amazon and bookworld.com. Pastor Ken, great to have you with us on the program. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me today.
This is a situation where you sat down with Pam and you were working on the book, and what you went back and really redid some of the sections. You wanted this to be a meaningful, impactful book and not just another book written about bullying. Talk about when you read the original manuscript and the changes you made in going back, because you did a brilliant job in laying this out. And at the end of each chapter, we have an opportunity to share it with other people and to have an honest discussion. How was that process of going back and realizing, okay, this is too much like the others, we want to make this different?
Well, the process itself kind of evolved out of our discussions together because the whole purpose of the book was trying to impact people's lives in this area. And as we were processing each chapter, it occurred to us that it wouldn't be much different from many other books out there, except maybe smaller. So we wanted to make it interactive. So when people read each chapter, they wouldn't just lay it aside, but would rather read some of the questions and say, well, yeah, that's really the kind of thing that I'm wrestling with, or somebody I know is wrestling with. And this is really helping me.
Talk a little bit about your association with Pam and why, when you talked with her, you made the decision, yeah, let's sit down and write a book because we can help other people. What was it about Pam's story that made you think we can help other people by sharing this story?
When Pam first approached me about it, I really didn't really think her story would be all that much different from anyone else's. There are so many people who are victims of verbal abuse. But as it unfolded, I could see where, as we related her story, so many other people could identify with what she did and what she went through and how she handled each situation as it came up. Primarily her faith as it showed through at every stage of her progress.
A very important part of how she was able to cope and put into perspective what was happening to her. The book is called Through Troubled Waters, Overcoming the Challenges of Being Bullied and Teased. It's a story of Pam Turner, as told to Pastor Ken Hinkley, our guest on This Week in America. Book available at Amazon.com. You can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, link on and get all that information as well. Let's go back and talk the background on her story. And she starts by talking about basically at age 8, 9, she really felt as she was an outsider. Talk about the disability that she was dealing with and the interaction at an early age with people in the classroom and why she felt so uncomfortable.
Her primary disability is one of a learning handicap. It was very difficult for her to process thoughts and words. And she had reading struggles, and because she couldn't read well, she couldn't understand well. And that was also a problem. There was a problem with her vision early on. I understand that's under control now. But because of that combination, she couldn't see well, she couldn't grasp concepts as she read the words. It made it more difficult for her to even hold a conversation and to do her schoolwork. And the other children and the staff at the school that she was attending at that time really didn't understand how to deal with a handicapped person, not like they do today, 30 or 40 years later.
The book is called Through Troubled Waters, Overcoming the Challenges of Being Bullied and Teased, the story of Pam Turner, as told to Pastor Ken Hinkley. There's a very graphic scene in the book where she's asked to read aloud in front of the class, and she struggles doing that and received the taunts of people in the classroom, and she just ran home. And when you read something like that, it really hits home how these actions at the time are really impactful on a young life, aren't they?
Yes, very much so. Not only among her classmates, but as you say, when she gets home, sometimes even family members don't grasp the struggle that another individual is going through because we don't think the way they do, or we don't feel the mental pressure that's on them to try to conform when they can't. And it's a constant struggle. And I'm sure that Pam, as well as other people I know, struggle with the concept of why can't they understand me? It's just a really tough thing that they have to deal with.
From the research that you've done and in talking to Pam, do you find that there is a direct relationship between bullying and school grades? Because learning is a very difficult situation on its own, and when you throw in the possible taunting and harassment, makes it, I would think, even more difficult. Is there a direct correlation?
Oh yes, very definitely. Many studies have been done on this, and I can't cite them accurately, but I've read some reports that there is a direct link, because the victims, after even a short period of time, if they're under this kind of pressure of being taunted and teased and set aside, they don't feel well about themselves. So when something comes up in a classroom, even in a discussion or in their homework, they give up really easily, and it's very discouraging to think that, well, if I didn't get my homework done today and I'm going to go to school, not only the teacher will be mad at me, but the other students are going to think I'm a loser. And so it's a constant struggle, and they both feed off each other. The low grades and the low self-esteem seem to be perpetually feeding each other.
When you look at the situation with Pam, and the book is called Through Troubled Waters, Overcoming the Challenges of Being Bullied and Teased, the story of Pam Turner as told to Ken Hinkley. You're listening to This Week in America, our website, thisweekinamerica.us, with information on the book that Pastor Ken has written, where it's available, and you can link on directly and get that information. Do we fully understand the power of our words, what we say? I mean, we're getting this from Pam's perspective. Words really hurt, and it's not that easy to try to shove that out of your mind. Do we understand the power of our own tongue?
I don't think many people do. We say things sometimes just in fun to somebody. We don't realize how hurtful that can be if they've heard it a number of times before, or if they just take it the wrong way. I was told one time by a counselor that even in a marital relationship, if we say something mean about our spouse, even if we say it in fun, that's not a good thing because they take it as a hurting jibe. And people with handicaps, it affects even worse because they're dealing with the overall pressure. And we're told in Scripture that every one of us have to learn to control our tongues because it is a very dangerous thing.
There are so many periods of transition that Pam talks about through her life, and as she's moved up to sixth grade, this was almost like a chance for a new beginning for her. Talk about that move and what was behind as she's thinking, okay, this is almost like a clean slate for me now. And what happened when she progressed to sixth grade?
Yeah. The way the school system was set up here at that time, she had the little local school near her home in the lower grades, and then she had to move to the nearby town for the next level, junior high. And anticipating going to that new school gave her hope that because it was a little larger, maybe she could blend in a little better. Or Possibly, maybe she was thinking she could hide a little better within the group, or find a place by herself. And whichever way, it turned out that people are the same everywhere. And just because she was in a new environment, it didn't end the teasing and the taunting, the bullying, all those things that young people do, sometimes without even thinking.
There was
So the transition was not really beneficial for her.
a significant part as she was growing up, going through the junior high and high school years, was her grandmother who took her to church. Talk about that experience and how that really was beneficial, not only at that particular point in time, but years later when she decided to come back.
Yes. Uh, having an active faith is good for anyone. And that grandmother that she relied on so much was the one stable support in her life as growing up. And because she was probably one of the few that saw any value in her, and tried to encourage her to rise above the circumstances. So her grandmother certainly was a big asset for her. Without that, she may have been lost a long time ago.
Along the way, I understand it's really not that uncommon, turns to drugs and alcohol, eating disorders, that type of things, to try to get away from the pain of being bullied. Talk about that and that period she went through, particularly after high school, and how she decided, okay, this really isn't for me. I have to deal with this issue. And she went into the workforce and actually got a job.
Yeah, and again, that's a situation, as you mentioned, that's common to a lot of victims. Uh, and I think for her, somewhere along the way, she had met a couple of other friends that were trying to work with her and get her back to the faith that her grandmother had before. And those contacts really helped her. And at one point, she realized that the Lord does love her in spite of her handicap. And because of His love, she was able to deal with those addictions and those unhealthy habits, and to set them aside for the most part. Uh, so it was a combination of reverting back to her grandmother, as well as a couple of new friends that guided her through. Uh, and even today, she gives them credit for giving her the hope that she had.
You're listening to This Week in America, our website, thisweekinamerica.us. The book is called Through Troubled Waters, Overcoming the Challenges of Being Bullied and Teased. The story of Pam Turner is told to Pastor Ken Hinkley. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. She talks about it a lot in the book, and you've written about it so well. Talk about the emotions she went through, specifically fear and anger, and the impact those have on especially a young life.
Yeah. I don't remember that she had a lot of anger, except at certain individuals that were seriously bullying her. But fear certainly was big in her life. She was she was afraid of other people. She was afraid of failure. She was afraid of several things, and all that combination really played on her mind. But again, she was able to overcome that through a strong faith and reliance on the Lord.
When did you first meet Pam? How did that happen?
Uh, she, I don't remember the first time that we met, but she and her sister started coming to worship with us at our church.
And she reached out, and obviously the book is a result. The book is called Through Troubled Waters, Overcoming the Challenges of Being Bullied and Teased. Talk about her today. I mentioned in the beginning that she was in the workforce until she had a crippling condition that really took her out of it. She had to give up her job. Talk about her today and how she's doing.
today she's very active. She does have a crippling disease in her hips and her legs that she can't walk well, but she gets about. She does the things that she thinks need to be done. Right now, in fact, she's actively involved in setting up a campaign against bullying, and she's trying to help others realize the dangers of it. She and some friends have put together a package on that.
We've got a couple minutes left in the program. Pastor Ken Hinkley, our guest in the program, who's written the book with Pam Turner, Through Troubled Waters. It's Pam's story being bullied. How has this impacted you? How is this personally and as well as being a pastor? What impact has this had on you?
The biggest impact I think it had on me was to open my eyes to the looking at the situation from the inside, or shall I say from the other side. Realizing that words are harmful, they're very painful if they're not controlled or given as a blessing instead of a hurt. And doing a little bit of research around that made me realize how serious this can be, because many lives have been lost as a result, and people have been institutionalized as a result, and those certainly are not good things. And I didn't realize how severe the situation was until we began that process. And now we see it in the news almost every day.
We do, and we've introduced a new element since basically Pam was growing up, and that's social media, which can work to your favor. And you mentioned she's working on a anti-bullying campaign, and I'm sure a component of that will be social media. But boy, things can be said anonymously that are really hurtful. Talk about what you see as the impact of social media in a negative way on this problem.
Social media, I'm not one who gets on there much, and I guess it's, for me, the individuals that are on social media just need to learn self-control and learn to hit the off button when they see negative things. But that's not easy for a lot of people, because they welcome the camaraderie and all the people that want to be their contacts. I can't call them true friends, but at least they have people they can share with and talk to. But when they start talking in negative ways, that's almost as harmful as if they were in the same room.
And maybe even more so, because it's difficult to confront them. So it's an interesting, all new element to the problem. The book is an excellent book. It's called Through Troubled Waters, Overcoming the Challenges of Being Bullied and Teased. It's the story of Pam Turner, as told to Pastor Ken Hinkley. The book is available at Amazon.com, Book World. You can get all the information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Pastor Ken, thank you for joining us on the program. It's a very important book. Thank you for being on the program and talking about it.
Thank you very much for having me today.
It is our pleasure, and you're listening to This Week in America. Full information on the book Through Troubled Water at our website, thisweekinamerica.us.